Get
Right.
into action.
That's right. All right. So as soon as this pops up,
I got a message. It's being live streamed.
Get into
woo!
action.
Here we
That's right.
go.
Woo!
And welcome,
All right.
welcome,
So
welcome to
as soon
Monetize
as this
Your
pops
Message
up,
I got a message. It's being live streamed.
expert panel.
get into action.
Uh-oh, I'm getting an echo here. All
That's okay.
right. There we go. We did it. We're doing it messy, but we are here. Welcome to Monetize Your Message expert panel. I am so excited to have you here today and to be in the room with Mr. Jim McLaughlin and Miss Jennie Edwards. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Krystal. It's great to be with you and with you, Jennie.
Yes, absolutely. I'm excited.
So I want to just start by giving you each the floor to introduce yourselves and let us know who you are, what you do, and why you are excited about being here today.
Oh my gosh.
So, Jennie, why don't we start with you?
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Jennie Edwards, aka Joyful Jennie, and I am excited to be here because as you can see on my Zoom background here, my mission is to really help empower people to share their message confidently using my talents as a brand visionary storyteller and video marketer to help them make a bigger impact in the world. And for me, I think monetizing that message has played a really important role in how I am elevating my public speaking and also collaborating with others, elevating their message, and using storytelling to really speak from the heart through the voice and really align people across the globe. At the globe here. Oh wait, here's our beautiful earth. And to really help, I feel, as a bridge to heal humanity, to help us see each other through the lens of love and joy and happiness and all of these values that we have as humans, that we can see each other across cultures. And that's one of my big missions, is to really help elevate people to make a bigger difference in this world. Yay!
I love it.
Love it. And Jim?
Yeah, thank you. I'm so glad you went first, Jennie. That really inspired me. So thank you.
Yay.
So I work with business owners. I'm a executive coach, management consultant, and particularly work with successful business owners who have reached a plateau, perhaps in their business, and they're looking to reignite the passion they had when they were building their business, in terms of taking that business, or what I say, creating the next era of that business, and whatever that looks like. And for some, it's turned out to be, what I might call a side hustle, but it may be another business that they're starting because maybe they're going to sell at some point this business, or they've just again lost that passion for it. They've gone from building mode to maintenance mode, and it's just not doing it for them. I know I get into that situation myself from time to time, and just love to reinvent things and create a new era in my business. I'm inspired by a quote from Helen Keller, who said, life is a daring adventure or nothing. It's not always that black and white, but I choose the daring adventure. It's not always easy. But it's always rewarding. And so I really get inspired by people who want to take that journey and to be able to support them along the way.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I love that. And I'm so excited to have both of you here. Thank you for joining me. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Krystal Casey, and I am a busy mom of five, an author, a speaker, and a business coach. And I teach thought leaders how to take a powerful message that they might have in their heart and to monetize it in a way that gives them freedom without stealing their soul, if you will. So it's really important for me to make an impact. And I think if you're in this room, it's important for you too. That's why you're here. And in order to do that, I learned that I needed to up my income if I was going to up my impact. And so that's what I do. I now help teach other people how to do that by establishing an event-based revenue engine that gives them that freedom and that income. And the reason that I wanted to create this panel and I started this whole series wasn't because I have everything figured out. It's because for the longest time, I had no idea what I was doing. All I ever wanted to do was to share my story and to make an impact and to inspire people and really make a difference. And also somehow build a full-time income so that I don't have to sacrifice my presence with my family. So I did everything I thought I was supposed to do. I became a published author in 2 best-selling books. I got on stages. I started sharing my story with everything that I had. I learned how to write a talk. I launched a podcast. I opened up my floor to visibility. And behind the scenes, I was still broke. I was confused and honestly a little embarrassed that I couldn't quite figure it out. But what it was is that nobody had told me that passion without a strategy and a system is just a really expensive hobby. I thought my publishers were going to help me sell the books, but they didn't. I thought the books would just sell themselves once they were live on Amazon or on my website, and that didn't happen either. I thought about coaching, but I didn't really know what to coach. I didn't consider myself a coach. I didn't have a process. I didn't have a system or courses. And I was speaking at an event at the library. And I remember it was my first like table rush. I had all of these people coming to the back of the room wanting to work with me. And all I could tell them to do was like, follow me on social media. Like, give me a like on Facebook. And I felt like an imposter. Like I had no idea what I was doing, or like I was trying to duplicate what somebody else was doing. And so I just felt like an imposter. I kept investing in people. I kept following different trainings. And I knew speaking was a key. I knew being visible and using my voice was a key, but I wasn't quite sure. I couldn't figure out how to put it all together. And I just kind of kept going in circles until one day I went to an event in San Diego to support a friend who was speaking. And I heard a presentation that heard everything for me. It introduced me to the idea of building your own stages, using speaking as a marketing strategy, not just inspiration. And then having a high ticket group program on the back end. That's when something clicked. That it's not just the message that creates the impact. It's the systems behind the message that creates the income. So once I got clear on my offer, I launched my group. I started speaking with intention. I signed my first $2,500 client within a week. That was the moment everything changed for me. So that is who I built this panel for. That is why we are in this room. The very first thing, I want you to learn how to build out the same system. And I'm going to share with you a little bit later how to do that. But the very first thing that you need to do is to decide whether you are running a very expensive hobby or you're running a business. And if you're running a business, then we need to understand that the point of a business is to make money and to monetize our message. And so that is why we are here. And that is what I want to talk about today. So I'm going to pass it back over to you. Is there anything that you guys want to say before I start jumping into questions?
No, I think this is awesome. I'm excited.
I'm just gonna go with the flow.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. So my first question is, what do you wish somebody would have told you about being visible for the first time?
I would say It doesn't have to be perfect, progress over perfection, just being visible. And honestly, it's better if it's not perfect.
Mhm.
Because when it's perfect, people don't know how to relate to you. When it's like perfect, polished, everything, it's you don't seem as human. Like AI, there obviously we're using AI, we're finding out ways to be efficient, but when there's an AI clone that's flawless, that speaks in this perfect way and never makes a mistake, and it's not you, and you can't build trust with something that's not you. It's hard for people to build trust, I think. I mean, I definitely second guess that. So visibility, even in quick ways that you can show up and be real and be authentic. If I would have known that, I probably would have earlier on. I started my business 19 years ago, and that was when I remember learning Facebook for the first time. Like, this is how I'm going to market my business and how I'm going to show up. And I think I did a lot of things like pretty messy where I would just show up. It doesn't have to be perfectly edited. And but I think I could have done it like in and now looking back in hindsight, do that more often. Just do that play, be willing to be free and be you and be, sometimes I come in like do a video right after I had a workout and I had this great lesson that came through, and it's about my personal development and my commitment and determination, and I'm all sweaty, and it's like it doesn't matter. And that's real. And people relate to
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and that's funny because I think that holds a lot of us back. I know for myself personally, there were a lot of times where it was like, well, I have this idea and I want to say this thing, but I'm not polished. My hair's not done. My makeup isn't done. I live in hats and sweats and I have 5 kids. Y'all caught that part, right? So
Yeah.
I'm constantly running around. I'm not like that. So if I always was waiting for the perfect moment or for me to be perfectly polished, I would never take that step. I would never feel comfortable being in the spotlight. And that was a big breakthrough for me, feeling comfortable showing up even on stage in jeans because it's me and that is authentic. I think that is so powerful. Love
Hmm.
that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I guess it's my turn. That's a really interesting question. I don't think I would have listened to anybody. My journey, well, I'll say it this way, the great bulk of my life was about avoiding any kind of exposure. I didn't get into this field until, I don't know, my third or fourth career like that. And so like I said, I spent most of my time avoiding the spotlight. And but when I look back at where like the turning point was, it would be, and Jennie pointed to, is the authenticity, which I don't know if I would have known what that meant, but it was really being myself, finding a way to be myself, relaxing a little bit. It's more than just that. It's transforming the way you're being on stage or in a room full of people. Because I was walking down the street one day. I was thinking about marketing ideas, and I heard a little voice in my head say, "Don't draw attention to yourself." And it was I'd heard, and I remember going, I've heard that before somewhere, but never as loud as it was. It really came to the surface, and I thought, well, what is marketing? It's drawing attention to yourself. So if I'm having thoughts like that, how is that going to help me? But that was kind of the landscape that I lived in for most of my life. I was very shy, introverted, and avoided any kind of exposure because I gotten, I guess, enough negative attention that way that I decided being invisible was safer than outright exposure. And so, yeah, it really changed for me when I realized I could actually enjoy it, have fun, and probably the most important way of doing that or having that, being successful at that is really connecting with people. I would, before I would avoid the kind of energy coming at me because I just wanted to get done. but actually embracing that and maybe using that energy and really connecting with people. And when you're doing that, it almost doesn't matter what you're saying. Almost doesn't matter what you look like or what, whether it's flawless or not. It's the connection that really makes the difference with people. So I guess I wish I had heard that. I probably heard it, but I wish I could have gotten it better, more quickly rather than. But life is a daring adventure. So what are you going to do?
Yeah. Yeah, so true. And I know so many of us can relate. I can relate. That was definitely something that I had to learn as well, that it's okay to be seen and that it's okay to have fun with it. And connecting with people, again, huge. That is so much. There's a difference between showing up and being present,
Yeah.
right? And making that connection. And that's so important. So how do we use, let's talk about storytelling. How and why do we use storytelling to enhance and improve our visibility? Who wants to take that one?
I'll jump in. I love storytelling because it really helps us see each other as, again, like humans. We are humans, and this is our human experience. And with stories, you can more easily paint the picture for that whole scene of, if it's your story, what was I look at I kind of I've created uh, my own variety of the hero's journey story framework, if you guys are familiar with that. But it's kind of like looking at, Star Wars, and there's Luke Skywalker, and he's on his home planet and living his life. And then there's the call to cross the threshold into the unknown and go on his adventure. And then he's, has his mentors, and he's goes in the pit of the walls closing in, and the struggle, and then he transforms into the Jedi that he is, and he could never go back to his home planet. And why that is so important to speak into storytelling, because I mean, we'll all always remember that story from watching Star Wars, even if when we were kids. And it's the same way with other stories that you heard from parents, grandparents, mentors. And people remember the story. They remember the emotion behind it. It's not about like the facts and the figures and all of that, but it requires a different part of our brain and our heart. And that is what is more shareable. It's more, from a sales perspective, is, we're talking about monetizing your message. When you can incorporate storytelling, it's way more converting from those followers into paid clients, because now they see you in a different light. And if you're telling your own story and being vulnerable storytelling is really key, I believe, also as a woman, because when I can connect to that feminine energy for anyone, men or women, the feminine energy of connection and being willing to be vulnerable can help people see, is like, wow, she's gone through that. Like, she knows, she understands, because she's faced these things. Like, you're not going to hire somebody that's like never gone through the things and doesn't understand you, but you would like someone to see you, feel you, and really understand what you're going through, to be able to help you and be the solution and be the expert. And that also lends well with credibility, which I think is really important in this equation to monetization. Ooh, equation to
Yes.
monetization.
Yes, that's what I was just going to say, is that because when the client can see themselves in your story, it helps make the sale the natural progression, because you are the solution to a problem rather than a sale. Like, hey, buy my thing because I want you to buy my thing, right? That's not what we're doing. We are solving problems. We have solutions. And so that more naturally leads into it. So love it.
And can I add one more thing about that too? I think as far as because I do these brand story videos for business owners and brands to tell that story that's where did they come from, what called them to do this type of work, and so on. But to think about your story is not just for you, it's really telling the story for your viewer, your listener, your potential
Mhm.
client. And parallel, it's a parallel story to their values. So
Exactly.
that helps you also understand what kinds of stories to tell because you're thinking about them first. You're not thinking about, like, well, I need to talk about this thing that happened to me and this happened to me, blah, blah, blah. And you get so caught up in your own story. Like, what do I need to tell for them to be able to serve them and serve what they're going through?
Exactly. And that right there is like, it's so big. And there are so many people out there that I see on this path that are sharing their story that is just coming from the viewpoint of them wanting to share their story. And that's great to an extent for them, right? But especially when we're talking about monetizing, we need to be able to see the parallel. The point of telling the story is that it's not about you. It's about the person who's listening to the story.
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
mm.
Yes.
So good. So good. Yeah, so many thoughts are coming up. I was just thinking, one that just showed up was when I first started doing transformational work on my own before I started delivering it. I met someone in a program, and she was, you would say she was really well put together. Was a good way to put it. She looked professional. She looked sharp. She showed up in a professional way. And and then she said something. I don't remember what it was, but it completely shattered kind of my own story of being I'm the only one who's dealing with the challenges that I have. I thought, wow, she's really well put together and she's dealing with something that I deal with. And
Mm.
so it completely shifted, kind of maybe the aloneness or the soloness that I was feeling. So that was, I mean, I remember that to this day, and it was pretty much the first experience I had in this work. And in addition, or I'll go into some other areas. One is, well, vulnerability and storytelling and mentorship came up in this. And we deal with a lot, or I deal with a lot of what you might call abstractions, right? Like integrity and commitment, and some people talk about rejection and things that they avoid, and they're really conceptual. And now I don't teach rejection. I teach, getting over the fear of rejection, or reducing or eliminating the fear of rejection, or calling it what it is. And because some people use terms as umbrellas for things that aren't really what they actually are. And that leads to, well, what is actually really happening? Anyway, let me go back to the abstractions part. We need like a roadmap or a visual or an art to the story so we can actually incorporate it into our own lives, right? So if I'm telling a story, it's like illustrating it, right? Because it may be like, well, I understand that there are steps involved, but what does it look like taking those steps? And when we have a visual representation of that, whether it's my own story or a story that I'm telling about a particular, maybe it's about a previous client and how they dealt with or how they achieved something, having that like, oh, okay, now I get it, because the brain works a lot in imagery and in pictures more than in language and steps and structures. I mean, it works both ways, right? But if I get up and I tell people what to do without, painting a picture of what it looks like taking that journey, taking that climb or whatever that is, then we're not going to remember it as much for one thing, but you remember the imagery that goes along with that, and not just the images, but the feelings that go along with that, the triumph, and the dark night of the soul, and all of those, and those are very relatable, just like the hero's journey is. That everybody has a version of that, or has had a version of that in their life, and they're experiencing it. So but sometimes in that case, it's, oh, that's where I am. That's where I am. And then, oh, and this is where I'm going, right? So it
Mhm.
it has that, that I don't know what it's just very connective, it's deep, it's meaningful. Maybe that's the word.
Yes, meaningful. I love that word.
Yes. So you brought up a really good point when you were talking about rejection. And I feel like that is probably what holds a lot of us back from wanting to be visible in the first place. And the truth of the matter is, if we go back to wanting to have a business versus an expensive hobby, is that you can have the best business in the world, the best product, the best service, the best customer service. But if nobody knows about you, if nobody knows that you exist, then you don't have a business, right? So we have to be able to put ourselves out there. We have to be willing to be visible, and we have to be willing to face rejection. So let's address that.
The willing to be facing rejection. Actually, Jim, do you have something that you were going to start to say?
Yeah. Uh, Go ahead, Jenny. Ladies first. I didn't actually. I was formulating something, but it didn't come up.
I could sense it.
Yeah, I know. Intuitive.
Yeah, I think that goes with, again, the kind of what we were talking about at the beginning was being willing to be in like progress over perfection.
Mhm.
So you're, because obviously a lot of times it's we have self-talk that's like, oh, is this, you're worried about, you don't even know, like you're, as far as visibility, you might be recording something or you might be posting a photo and it's like, oh, it's not perfect. This hair's out of place or there's something, lipstick on my teeth or oh, something like I need to redo it. And then you have your own self-talk that's limiting getting into progress. And then as far as rejection, I mean, honestly, look at how many, it's pretty rare to actually receive rejection. When I look back at like 19 years of like all the events that I've done and all the Zoom calls I've been on and all the, posts I've made and all the things. But why is it like human nature to focus on the rejection? Like, really?
Yep.
It's a mindset shift.
Yep.
And when we can even stop and choose gratitude, look at ourselves in the mirror and say some affirmations or play a song and get into your body and get out of your head or something and shift that mindset, that for me has been really pivotal to be in that. And honestly, I realize if those people that are, I think, are judging me or
Mhm.
I'm not good enough or whatever, those aren't my clients anyway. I want the real people, the real heart-centered, maybe a different conversation about consciousness, being in more higher consciousness conversations rather than people from high school or people that might be naysayers from my hometown. I don't know, whatever it is. It's like those people, it doesn't matter. It's the right people. We want to attract the right people, and that is what's going to help us monetize our message, not receiving maybe rejection from a family member or somebody that's not even our target client, based on something that we posted. So just really choosing your audience and choosing who you're choosing to receive feedback from, because everybody's got feedback, but only we can decide who we're going to let in to make a difference in listening to.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. I was thinking about a client I was working with recently, and he brought up the fear of rejection, and the idea was presented to him in a group setting. I have a mastermind group, and a suggestion came up to him that was essentially, go to a business complex and start knocking on doors to drum up some business, which is good advice if business is slow. And he said, no, no, I can't do that. And it was like, really? Why not? And it's, oh, fear of rejection, fear of rejection. It's like, oh, okay. So, being conceptual, I said, okay, what happened last time you were rejected? What did that look like? And he said, well, I blah, blah, blah. And they said no. And so that's what actually happened is somebody said no. But what he did, and this goes back to storytelling, he had this story about what it would be like to go knock on doors is somebody's going to say no to him And then he has this story about what that means called rejection, right? And that becomes what drives us is some of the negative stories we have about, like don't draw attention to yourself. Like, what is that going to mean? Yeah. So just breaking it down into what it actually is, what actually does it look like? What does it happen? Oh, it's just somebody said no. Well, I get you could be disappointed in getting a no. Absolutely, that's normal. You want somebody's business or you want to provide a service to them and they don't want it. Well, it's natural and normal to be disappointed, but to turn that into something that I'm never doing that again because I can't handle the fear of rejection is like, all right, is that effective? Does that really work? Is that the best strategy for you? And so that comes up for me, and what does it really look like? And is it a story you've concocted to prevent you from taking the actions that will actually grow your business or whatever it is that you're up to? And I want to also touch on something that Jennie said because it related to me as well. I have gone through several reinventions, if you will, and it's kind of what's made me an expert at it. And I was also working with another client who's doing something very similar. It's what I do. And what I noticed out of that is sometimes, with your family members or people who knew you in a different way, maybe they don't understand what you're doing or why you did it. Or we've all heard the story about, the crabs in the pot and one starts to climb out and all the other ones pull them back and all of that. Well, sometimes maybe you've just outgrown that phase of life. And it's not judgmental, say you outgrow people, that sounds judgmental, but you've outgrown that phase of your life and now you're venturing on to something else. And it's normal for people to question that. And again, what are you turning that into? What are you making of that versus, okay, well, that's fine. And I'm going to put my focus on the people that do feed me, the people that I do want to work with, the heart-centered people, for example, all of that, because this is maybe holding me back. I like to use the analogy of tic-tac-toe. Remember when we played tic-tac-toe very young? Well, eventually you outgrew the game, right? Because it was no longer challenging. Because pretty soon, at some point, you realize you can end every game in a cat's game. So where's the fun in that, right? So that's kind of where outgrowing comes out of it. Sometimes you outgrow what you're currently doing, or you outgrow the game you're playing, and it's time to craft something new. And maybe that's a little bit diversion from the rejection conversation, but that can be a byproduct of that, as some people don't get it or don't understand it, and that's fine. I mean, that's
Yeah.
where I like to put it is it's actually normal,
Yeah.
right? So it doesn't have that heavy load to it.
Yeah. So important. Love that. Thank you for sharing.
You bet.
So before we close out, I want to ask, what tips do you have for getting more visible? What are the best tips that you have for someone who wants to get more visible?
Mm.
Mhm. I would say, well, I do obviously video and photography. So if you can think about if you're getting visible for your business, social media is an amazing way. There's so many different platforms, and looking at what's the best platform. You don't have to do everything, but what's the best platform? Where are your clients hanging out? And how can you not only just show up and regarding also, I'm also a mom of two. So it doesn't have to be the perfect time to take a video. Like, look at, you might be running around and doing things with the kids. Hey, that's a great moment to be visible. Maybe.
Mhm.
Maybe they're yelling or screaming or crying. You might not want that necessarily in your video, but even that could be a lesson or something. Like, this is how I manage stress. And this is whatever it is. Like, this is real life. And you can look for ways. Hey, I've got 5 minutes in between right now and my next meeting. I'm going to go outside. I'm capture a quick video about this lesson, and then I'm going to post it. Or I'm going to batch post, 5 short 30-second videos so I have something for every day this week or something. Looking at bite-sized ways that you can be visible. And then I also, as far as monetization, always recommend having a call to action at the end. You're not just dropping in this 30 seconds, like that's it. Now you're saying, hey, if you want to learn more about this, write curious in the comments below. Like one bite-sized little thing that you can have them do next, because you always want to think about how you're starting building this relationship and you are creating curiosity and it's leading to something else that's not overwhelming, like go to my website, and then they get all distracted because they have 20,000 windows on their screen. No, just one quick thing that they can do that starts a conversation.
Love it. So good.
Brilliant,
Thank
brilliant. Um, yeah, it's so funny because it seems counterintuitive to kind of who I was, but it's public speaking. I remember I was in high school and some other high school students came into my English class and said they were starting a Toastmasters club. I didn't know what that was, but they explained it. And I remember thinking, why would anybody do that? Why would anybody want to, to get up in front of people? Again, I was trying to be invisible for that part of my life and on into adulthood. But I eventually did. And that might be my tip is to look for a Toastmasters club. Look to get out in front of people because that live experience is it's amazing. It's wonderful. Yeah, it takes something, right? And I'm not saying, I'm not comparing it to the videos. That's absolutely a wonderful way and a meaningful way, and it's always available to you. You have the audience already there in whatever platform you're using.
But
Um,
Toastmasters is awesome. I've done that
yeah,
for a number of years too. And you
yeah,
get
yeah.
feedback from people.
And that's what's beautiful about it is you'll get an evaluation every time you speak. You may go to an event and speak and something, and everybody's like, "Oh, that was wonderful. It was wonderful," but you could do better, right? You move some percentage of the room. You can do better than that. And so that is a place to practice of finding out different or finding out the nuts and bolts of speaking. But I think and I'm also informed. I used to be an organizer of TEDx events, so I'm sure you're all familiar with TED Talks. I had an event here in my hometown of Temecula. And we did it for 12. I did it for 12 years. I turned it over to somebody a couple of years ago. They're running with it. But I coached over 100 people on how to have that 18 minutes that could be a real game changer in their lives, but also in the lives of the people that are watching the talk, either in the audience or later online. And I got to say, there's nothing like the energy that has and the audience that you can draw. I mean, with a TED Talk, of course, but being able to develop for yourself the language that of a talk, but then you can also use in different areas and shape it to, well, I've got 5 minutes, I'm going to say this. I've got 15 minutes, I'm going to go this, and then expanding it into a 45-minute or a 90-minute workshop kind of a thing. That is, having that for yourself so that you can tap into it at any moment in any environment, wherever you're at, you have the language already crafted for speaking to different people in different ways. So you're not trying to, sometimes we're, in line at the grocery store or whatever, and, we're not really, what do you do? Sometimes we stammer and trying to get into the mode of it because you're kind of caught off guard. Well, having that, well, here's what I do. I work with people who are experiencing a plateau in their business and they are yearning to get to that next level and they haven't been able to figure out why. Just something simple like that. Now, I wouldn't have said that here if I hadn't already learned to say that, if you will. So Toastmasters is a great way. It's a structure. It's not expensive. It's super cheap. And so that would be my tip, is to develop your skills and comfort in speaking to people publicly.
It was a result of Toastmasters that I got to do a TEDx talk in
Yeah.
2023. So I
Uh,
agree. It's a great way. And you become more comfortable with, like you said, you have different, and there's a lot of different types of speaking groups around, and online too. There's online Toastmasters too.
mm,
So no matter where you are, and it's a great opportunity to just have that clarity about the words that you're saying, the purpose, the structure, And then anytime you have an opportunity, you know, in life, there's, hey, we're at this live event, like, hey, somebody can hop up on the mic and share a little bit about themselves or do something. Like you just feel so much more comfortable
Yes.
and more
That
confident.
that's exactly it. That's why I joined. I was so tired of being so wound up and so anxious about the speaking opportunities. Like I can't do this anymore. Like for 2 full days before anything, I was like, oh, like I couldn't stop thinking about it, like what's going to be like. Well, oh, I'll say this or oh, I'll say that. And it was chewing me up. So getting comfortable so that I could find myself, find my, and humor showed up, like, oh, I can be funny while I'm doing this, and that's always fun.
Mhm.
Yes, that's the best.
Yeah.
Wow. I love this. You guys, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for joining me. I learned so much today. I hope those of you who are watching, listening, catching the replay have also joined. We are going to have Jim and Jennie's information down below, along with more information about how to connect with me and learn how to set up your event-based revenue engine. You can book a call with me. That link will be down below as well. Again, thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful day and join us again next week on Monetize Your Message.
Thanks, Crystal.
Thank
You're
you.
Thanks,
awesome.
Crystal. This was awesome.